Hello everybody and welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today, I am going to be talking about Castlevania Nocturne. Now, this is actually a two-part review involving both this review and another about Nosferatu. So, it's vampire time. For those of you who hadn't seen my previous review on Castlevania Nocturne, this is Season 2. There will be spoilers for Season 1, you can find my previous review on that in the iCard at the top right corner. Now, following the previous season, basically it's French Revolution time and there are vampires, and there's also ancient mythologies involved. For those of you who have never seen Castlevania, Dracula was real, he had vampires, he got killed by his son during the previous series. And now we're going years later, over a century later. It's time for the French Revolution. A bunch of vampires are getting together to worship a new vampire messiah who's going to blot out the sun with a big old eclipse and make a world where they can feast forever. You know, one of the main two vampire plots, right? Either wipe out humanity and install vampire overlords, or block out the sun so we can feed without fear of our one weakness. To be fair to this, it does do some things different. The first season started delving into different mythologies with Haitian revolutionaries who are coming over to hunt the vampires with the Belmont and the Speaker Wizard. So that's kind of interesting. Obviously, if you've seen the previous Castlevania series or the last season of Nocturne, the animation is usually what'll stand out to you. The gorgeous fight scenes, the fluid animation movement, it just looks so good. If I have to give this show credit for one thing, if I could just say one thing unqualified, it looks amazing. They really went all out, and I'm so proud that Castlevania got an adaptation that at least looks this impressive. On the other hand, I also don't really think the plot entirely holds up. It's pretty simple, but it also grabs in a lot of different elements, and I'm not sure it really does all of them justice, but it does have a lot of ideas. In my previous review, I actually praised the fact that it turns out that the Vampire Messiah is so powerful because not just they're a powerful vampire like Dracula, they actually ate the blood of a god, an Egyptian god called Sekhmet, and one of her priestesses is actually the second in command of the whole operation. Which is really an interesting touch, actually, because she was a daughter of Ra who he created from his eye after ripping it out to get vengeance on mortals after they stopped worshipping enough. And in the midst, one of the ways that the humans and gods eventually lured her and subdued her was by drugging a bunch of booze and blood all mixed together. So her being inside a vampire now makes sense. But Sekhmet is also a healing goddess, and those warring natures come back to bite her in the second season. It's also interesting that the Vampire Messiah isn't really, actually Sekhmet. She's a part of her soul, and also this sadistic monster of a noblewoman who gets turned to vampire by the priestess. It turns out she's not actually older than the priestess. The priestess has been around for a while, and she's been looking for a vampire who would be worthy of Sekhmet's blood after a vampire killed her congregation, and she believes that the vampire was sent by her goddess to essentially give her this power so she could worship her forever, and she was doing this all in her name. At the end of the first season, the priestess lady got killed, but at the beginning of the season, they used the night machine on her, which is how the priest was creating demon monsters for her army, because he was going to side with her. The machine does bring her back to life and makes her immune to the sun, so she gets a lot more powerful. I'm not going to spoil what happens with all that. Her plotline in general is very interesting, I think. Now, of course, if you have seen the previous season at all, you know that the last season ended on a cliffhanger with Alucard appearing out of nowhere, saved the main heroes, and helped them escape. And he's back. I like him. He's always been pretty subdued, but he comes off even more subdued in a weird way. But at the same time, he also seems to almost have more of a personality in the previous series, which is weird. He doesn't have the whole hate thing going on with Trevor anymore, because he's kind of been working with the Belmonts for years. So he's kind of like the cool uncle that none of them really know exists for real until he shows up one day and kills a vampire in front of him. Which is, I like that. I like that Alucard is essentially like the wandering uncle that occasionally comes in every few generations to deal with an actual problem. He also has clearly been living an actual life outside of just vampire hunting. He mentions that he knew Da Vinci, and that the Mona Lisa wasn't one of his best works. All in all, I think they did a good job capturing this kind of immortal who's fond of humanity, but also sees some of their more negative qualities in a pseudo-realistic life. He comments on the French Revolution, saying they have noble aims, but he's also been around the block a few times and has seen enough revolutions to understand when one's becoming a bloodbath. So, yeah. I'm also a bit disappointed with what they did with Maria and her mother. See, the whole thing with Maria is that she was a summoner, speaker woman who could summon monsters and creatures. She was, the mage. Not the combat mage, more of the I'm the jack of all trades true mage, because Richter can also, summon fire and shit. She does, in fact, summon a giant dragon, which was frickin' awesome, by the way. And she uses it again during the final battle, which was even cooler. The main thing that happened with her is that she was very on board with the revolution, and then during the big battle with Ursabeth they had to run from, her mother gave herself up to become Ursabeth's new vampire pet in exchange for her letting them, run away. Ursabeth realizes pretty quickly that she's not going to be that loyal, so she says, yeah, do what you want. I don't really care. I'm too powerful to even be bothered by you. And the mother now has to grapple with being a vampire, where, the older Belmont wants to put her down. The younger one is like, we can't put her down. She does manage to get control over herself enough to not drink the blood of her daughter, but she does kill a few other people because she can't sate her hunger. And one of the other vampires, who's sort of good, but more on like the whole good vampire, as in he still drinks humans, but he tries to go for the shitty ones first. His name is Olrock. He has a whole other thing going on I'm not going to get into, but he's kind of interesting, mostly because he killed Richter's mother a long time ago, and he had about trauma about that, which was what he couldn't use magic. But they kind of just leave that there. It's like, we'll work together this time, but when I see you again, we shall do battle, and only one of us shall walk away. That's, he just kind of leaves at the end, and it's like, alright, cool, we're not going to have a real confrontation between those two? Got it. Then there's Annette. She's like a demigod or descendant of a god from Haitian myths, I believe. Long story short with that, she ends up going on like a spirit quest to retrieve the last third of Sekhmet's soul so that they can try and subdue Elspeth after they managed to get a hold of the second third. I did kind of like Annette's stuff, but I also feel like she didn't really do that much, because technically Sekhmet was the one doing all the stuff in the final battle. Outside of that, the action scenes are nice, and there's a, I'd say, somewhat decent theme over humans interpreting signs from divine sources and claiming them as their reason for acting in very, very shitty ways. You got the priest who raised armies of demons in the name of the nobles and the Christianity, and you have the priestess of Sekhmet who raised a vampire messiah with 2/3 of her goddess's soul to punish humanity, even though she used to be a healer, all because she thought the vampire that she managed to stab and get some blood from to turn herself happened to be a sign from her goddess. So I think the show is trying to say something, I'm just not sure what. Maybe searching for meaning in random coincidences and claiming they're divine is a mistake, but that might be my own biases talking, so I'm not really sure, and I'm just gonna say there are probably some themes to unwrap here. I don't think they're fully fleshed out, though, and that's probably my greatest complaint about the show, is that, especially in the second season, too, it feels like they had a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's not really a whole lot tying it all together. It all just boils down to join together and beat down Elsbeth, which, fine, it's an action show, and it works. I'm not going to complain about those action scenes, not in the slightest. Very few things that are on the level of the fire scene from the first season where Richter went all out. I think the only thing that comes close is that scene where Maria is falling into dark magic, summoning the dragon and her father and that whole thing. I'm not going to tell you what happens because it's actually really cool, but I think that's basically the closest we come to like the fire scene of the first season. So, yeah, Castlevania Nocturne, I'd recommend it. It's a fun show with some interesting ideas. If you like Egyptian mythology, French Revolution, or vampires, or just really cool animation and action, you'll probably like this. So, yeah. If you're into something a bit more slow, with a live action pace, maybe a bit of romance elements, maybe a bit of creep factor, a bit more horror, you can check out my review of Nosferatu. Yeah, I'm releasing 2 reviews at the same time. Sorry they came out so late. If you're looking for other ways to watch stuff on the channel, I stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 Central Standard Time PM. I tend to play a bit of a hodgepodge these days. Sometimes it's new stuff, sometimes I play games based on dragons, because, my theme. And sometimes I just play whatever you guys recommend to me in the Discord channel. If you want to recommend me some stuff, go click on the link in the description below and go to the Discord channel. You can literally just recommend me anything and I'll give it a shot. Though it may take some time. I have a lot of stuff backed up at the moment. Finally, we have the out card. There's a subscribe orb. Click on it, go to my channel, subscribe, and here is the link to the Nosferatu video. More vampire goodness. Click on it and enjoy that. And I will see you all next time. Bye!